guys, I'm Aishwarya Soni from the Study Spectrum TV channel, and today we'll be learning something about the organ system. So this chapter is present in the SSC board of the standard 6th. So in this chapter our main objectives are going to be nothing but to understand actually about the specific types of organs having their influence on the performance of the body functions. The second objective we'll be understanding in this chapter would be to understand about the senses and the sensory organs. I'm sure we know much about these senses and sensory organs because we understand that the organs that help us to sense are the sensory organs. So in them are eyes, nose, tongue and skin for the sense of touching. So all these we'll be covering actually in a while in the chapter. Then the next objective is going to be to understand about the organ system. Now we know that just one organ cannot perform the whole function of the body that is there right now. So that is being performed in your body. For example, there are certain systems, certain functions that are happening continuously throughout, like without you knowing it. And these are involuntary functions that have been continuing like right from the time you have your birth till the time you would die. So these would be nothing but the circulation of blood, the beating of the heart, then your breathing and all the other functions in the enlisted involuntary functions. Along with that, we'd also understand about the various kinds of the organ systems found in the human body. So the human body is made up of many organs, we know that, and we have to understand that in the functions of performing the other specific activities, not just one organ is responsible, rather a whole system, that means many organs grouped up together are responsible to perform that kind of function. So just for the example of breathing, you would not breathe only by your nose. There are other organelles, other parts of your body that are responsible to perform this whole and execute the whole function as a whole. So let's just start with the introductory part, and let's just start with making certain observations and certain experiences, sharing them what we have had in the past. So just imagine this, you go off to school. Sometimes you go either by a school bus or your parents might be dropping you, or you might be using a public transportation to travel to your school. So there is obviously, if there's a lot of traffic on the road, there is going to be a lot of honking. And to sense this honking, the driver that would be driving your bus or the public transportation medium like an auto or the rickshaw would be sensing these honks. How does the driver and as well as you are able to hear the honks? Now you would tell me the answer is ears. Of course the answer is ears, but there's a whole lot of mechanism under that. The other function is that your mother has cooked really delicious food, okay? And that smell, that sense comes to you. And you are able to smell the aroma of that delicacy by the help of your nose. So these are certain organs that come in the sensory organ list. Along with that, we also need to understand that just a part of organ is not responsible for performing this same activity by itself. There is always a set of organs or a group of organs that are responsible to come together and then perform this whole activity or the function and execute the activity or the movement into the body. So you might have had understood also by your previous chapters about how movement is possible in the human body. So movement would be not a very easy activity or a function to be performed. It takes high brain activity, and after that high amount of brain's activity and exertion, the electrical impulse because of which your body performs movements is sent to that organ or that muscle, which finally in turn leads to the desired movement. So all this is not really simple. That is what I'm trying to explain you pass along, and we'll understand about the organ systems that will perform various functions. So we know that human performs functions like the reproduction, excretion, respiration, then circulation, digestion. These are certain main functions that a human performs, and in order to carry out these functions, it becomes important for the body to have coordination in them and in the organs performing these functions. So what is going to happen is that every function that will be performed will have a set of organs related to it to perform that particular function.
Choose the right kindergarten, a right bag, and matching bottle to go with. The right school, the right friends. Choose the right subjects and score well. Be an expert in all. The right teacher, and make sure that they like you. Choose the right timing, the right bus, and take a cab if getting late. The right train, and don't stand near the gates. Mind the pockets. Better get into ladies' compartment. Make sure your mustache hasn't started coming. Choose the right study time and forget games, IPL, IHL, rock and metal, guitar, X. The right group and be a model to your brother. Seriously. Choose the right syllabus, the right test paper. Keep guessing questions for exams. Choose the right branch, the right college, the right stream. Choose the right career. Lucky to have a father's business to take care of and a father to allow that. The right counselor, the right form, and make sure the project is submitted on time. Choose the right website and rely on your friends for more information. Oblivious of the sites they have been to, there is no end to your woes. Getting better with every step you climb up the ladder. The summer vacation shorter, the bucket list bigger. The night darker, the books heavier. The only light you have is your friends ahead of you. Probably he is right. Ever thought how he got the direction? No more spending your energy and money on coaching classes. No more missing classes for rain, rally, and nonsense. Get your interest back in subjects through our creative ways of teaching. Doubts, concepts, applications, all explained through one vibrant animation. Subjects covered by multiple teachers with repeat telecasts. Special programs only for basic foundation and paper analysis. Personality development, career counseling, admissions, hobbies, all covered. A new approach to study with long-term perspective. So sit back comfortably in your homes and watch Study Spectrum TV channel.
By the introductory part that I had given you, I am sure you might have understood that how a system of organs together will be helping to perform one set of function. But let's move on further to understand about the types of organ system and mechanism of certain types of organ system. Before we shift our attention to anything else, let's just define what exactly is an organ system. So, a group of organs working together to serve a common bodily function is known as the organ system. Now, I told you that our body performs many functions like excretion, like reproduction, circulation, like respiration, and also digestion. So, all the organs that will be related to perform these set of activities or functions is going to be known as the organ system of that specific function. So, the respiratory system and the digestive system and the circulatory system are the three kind of systems that are continuously working actually, whether you're asleep, whether you are awake, whether you're performing any other activity, or whether you're just sitting. These three systems are going to be operating throughout your lifespan, and therefore we'll be just understanding about the respiratory system and the digestive system today in a little depth. So we'll start with the digestive system first. Over here, this is our concern right now actually. So I have actually sketched out a diagram for you with certain organs, as you can see over here. So this diagram is having one long tubular pipe and the other structures in it, the coiled pipe and structures. So we will just be carrying out the labeling of these organs. So this whole is going to be representing the digestive system. I'll write that down for you just to be clear. So that now actually whenever you make a diagram or you draw any scientific diagram, you're supposed to be labeling it down. That's the procedure that would be giving you the marks in the paper. And also the drawing of diagrams is very important actually. So let's just start with the whole exercise. So over here you see you have eaten something. So how would you eat that food material actually? So supposedly your mother gave you 2 chapatis to eat. So 1 chapati you've already finished. But how did that chapati get into your body? So that chapati enters your body obviously with the help of your mouth. So the first organ you'd be mentioning over here is the mouth, over here. So I'll write that down for you. Now further, the food that you had chewed, it enters your the stomach through the help of the esophagus. So this yellow pipe you see over here, right over here, is nothing but the esophagus. So the spelling is going to be OESOPHAGUS. That's the spelling of esophagus. After the food has entered the esophagus, it enters the stomach. And here the pink color structure you're seeing that I'm highlighting right over here. That's nothing but your stomach. Then the food that further goes to your stomach and it gets churned, it gets further broken down. So what happens is it enters the small intestine, and this green structure that you see over here that I have drawn, that's really piled up, and I'm just highlighting it very randomly. Now all this, the whole of it in green, is nothing but your small intestine. So after the food has reached the small intestine, it travels all the way back through by this, the large intestine that I am shading in white. Now this is the large intestine actually, over here. The whole of it is large intestine. So there's small intestine and there is large intestine. So this is the large intestine. And finally, when the food is completely utilized and completely equipped with all the nutrition being taken up by the body, there's only waste left, and that waste needs to be excreted off your body. So the waste is going to be excreted off the anus. The spelling for anus is A-N-U-S, anus. Also, not only these main organs are responsible for carrying the digestive system function, but also there are other organs like the pancreas, the salivary glands, the livers. So over here, liver needs to be name, because that's right there. So now I have actually explained to you about everything in a small gist just by labeling. So our main concern over here in this figure was to understand about the parts of the digestive system that were present. So we learned that the digestive system in the man's body was made up of the following parts. Now it started with having mouth, not only the mouth but also the teeth and the tongue, because they are also responsible for the process of digestion. So along with mouth there is teeth, there is tongue, okay, all these are also included in that. Then there was esophagus included in the digestive system, and there was stomach included. There was this large intestine right over here. This whole part, this whole bulky coiled part you observe, that's your large intestine. But of course the food travels through the small intestine first. That's a large intestine right over here, and this, the whole shaded region in green, is your small intestine. Finally, when the waste from the body needs to be thrown out or excreted, it is done with the help of anus that is present over here. The anus is present over here. In the end, the narrow opening is the anus. Along with that, not only these organs, but also the liver, the pancreas, the salivary glands were some organs that were responsible for the help in the digestive system. So I'll write down pancreas, along with the salivary glands. This all is our topic of concern now. Now I'm sure that we've pretty understood about the organs that are present in the digestive system, but we will also be understanding about its mechanism in detail now. So over here I have named certain compounds, certain chemicals, certain organic compounds in this. So they range from talin, over here P is silent, so that's talin, that's gastric juices, bile juices, intestinal juices and pancreatic juices. Do you notice something, that all these are juices? So these juices are nothing but the digestive juices which make the function of digestion much more easier. So these are going to be known as the digestive juices. Also, we will be starting with our main concern about understanding what is digestion and how is digestion performed with the help of the digestive system. So again we will be revising actually what all organs are there. So the organs that are present are the mouth, teeth and tongue that are right in the open. Then there is esophagus, followed by the stomach. The food after entering the esophagus enters the stomach. From there it reaches the small intestine. From the small intestine it reaches to the large intestine, and finally there are other organs that are also helpful in the process of digestion, that are liver, pancreas, salivary glands, and also the intestinal glands and the gastric glands. So finally the waste from the large intestine, after absorbing all the nutrients from the food that was left, is removed from the small opening of the body that's known as nothing but the anus. So let's just start again now. Let's start with the explanatory part of how this happens. So now what happens is that I gave you an instance where your mother gave you 2 chapatis to eat by chance. So obviously you took a morsel of it and you kept it in your mouth and you started chewing it. So the first step of digestion has been performed over here. So what happens is you chew the morsel of the food with the help of your teeth and your tongue in the mouth. So the first step starts right in your mouth, that is over here. That's your first step. Along with that, the food is further churned and chewed, and there are various juices like the salivary glands have these saliva, that's a digestive juice, being continuously secreted in the mouth during the process of chewing the food in the mouth. Now the saliva is also containing the juice, that is talin. That's why I had mentioned these digestive juices over here. So the saliva secretes talin. It contains this compound, that is talin, that further breaks down the food into smaller components, into basic components. So the carbohydrates, the proteins, the fats you consume in your food diet is not taken up by the blood in its own self, in its own raw state. It is further broken down to simpler states. After breaking down to simpler states, the blood has the ability to pick them up and utilize them for performing the body functions and obtaining energy of them. So the first step is done. That was nothing but when the food morsel was taken in the mouth, chewed and churned by the mixing of saliva that was containing the talin juice. The talin juice, and that it was present in the salivary gland. So I'll write down over here the salivary glands. Okay, after this, what happened is that we know that teeth and tongue are responsible also for the chewing and churning of the food, and after the mixing of saliva, that was again made to a very dense morsel where the breaking down of carbohydrates and proteins and fats was already initiated. So the food was pushed back into the esophagus with the help of the tongue. So tongue pushed the food back into the esophagus, and esophagus is nothing but a long tubular pipe that is responsible for pushing the food into the stomach over here. So once the food has entered the stomach, what happens over there is the stomach again starts to break down the food. Since I told you as it's a very simple and a logical thinking that the food is in the complex state of carbohydrates, of proteins, and of fats. So the blood can obviously not take it in its own way. It needs to be broken down. It needs to be broken to form simpler compounds that are easier to take up from the blood. So that is why once the food has been broken down over here, and when it is pushed through the esophagus into the stomach, what does the stomach do is it further breaks it down into simpler complexes, into the simpler substances, like carbohydrates is broken to glucose, then proteins are broken to the amino acids, then fats are broken to nothing but the fatty acids, and which is easier for the blood to be taken up. I'll repeat. So carbohydrates are broken to simpler substances like the glucose. The proteins are broken down to simpler substances like the amino acids, and fats are broken down to fatty acids. After they are broken down. So now after that, the stomach, let's shift our focus to the stomach. So stomach is churning the food. After churning the food, the walls of the stomach will be removing the gastric juices. Now these gastric juices will further mix with the churned food into the stomach and break it down more. So the process of breaking down is done at every stage of the digestion. So this is the second stage of digestion actually. Then further from there, the food is pushed to the digested and the broken down food is pushed to the small intestine, and in this small intestine again there are various juices acting, various digestive juices acting. So the digestive juices that would be acting onto the food morsel that was broken down and entered from the stomach to the small intestine would be the bile juices, the intestinal juices, and also the pancreatic juices. So the pancreatic juices are the juices actually from the pancreas, and also the bile juices are the juices that are from the liver. But as I told you that just the organs that are present right over here, these organs are not the only organs who perform the function of digestion, but also the organs that are present on the periphery, like the liver, the pancreas, salivary glands, they secrete the digestive juices and they perform the function of digestion. So the liver secretes the bile juices, while the pancreas, they secrete the pancreatic juices, and the walls, the intestine, they secrete the intestinal juices. So the food enters here, and these three juices are acting on the food to further break them down and obtain glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, which are further easily taken up by the blood in the body, or blood in the intestinal region. So once this has been done, once the food has been broken down and the simpler complexes have been taken up by the small intestine, the further metabolized or broken down food is sent to the large intestine over here. This is the large intestine, the structure you see, this tubular coiled structure, huge fat tubular coiled structure that is responsible for having the churned food from the small intestine to the large intestine and further removing it from anus. But before that, we understood that over here we had the simpler substances like the glucose and the fatty acids and amino acids from the complex substances like the carbohydrates, proteins and fats being taken up in the small intestine. So the further simpler food is pushed back to large intestine, and the water content in the food is taken up by the walls of the large intestine. So once the water has been taken up, so now we know that the food has been taken up, along with that also the water has been taken up. Now whatever is left is nothing but the debris, and that waste or the debris needs to be pushed out of the body, for our body cannot contain the excretory products in it for a very long time, since it becomes hazardous for the body. So that is pushed away or pushed out of the body after the large intestine uses the water, and that is pushed out from the anus. So that's just a basic explanation about the digestive system and all, and we'll have a quick recap about it. So how we started with it. Now we imagine that we were eating food, your mother had given you 2 or 3 chapatis to have. You took the first morsel of that chapati. So that first morsel was first churned down and broken down into your mouth with the teeth and the tongue. So along with that also there were salivary glands. These salivary glands were present in between your throat and your ear. So naturally when you see really tasty food, what happens is your salivary gland starts to secrete saliva, because that's an indication that you want that food and it's really tasting very good. So the salivary gland secretes saliva, and saliva had a substance in it that was the talin, and talin was responsible for breaking the food down, by making it easier to break the food down. Now the main function of the digestive juices is going to be nothing but to break the food down and make it easier for the food to be digested. So after the food being broken down and the mixing of saliva, the food was easily pushed to the stomach by esophagus, the long tubular pipe that you see over here. In the stomach, the walls of stomach secreted the gastric juices. Right over here, the gastric juices. So the gastric juices were the one that broke the food further down to simpler substances. So once the food has been shifted down to the small intestine from the stomach, it is pushed down. So what happens is the digestive juices like the bile juices, the intestinal juices and the pancreatic juices that are respectively secreted from the liver over here. The intestinal juices are secreted from the walls or in the intestine itself, and the pancreatic juices are the ones that are secreted from the pancreas. So these are released in the small intestine, further breaking the food down and taking up the nutrition, taking up these simpler components like the glucose from the carbohydrates, the amino acids from the proteins, the fatty acids from the fats, and further what is left is the waste, the metabolic product along with the water. So what happens is that the food from this intestine is going to be shifted to the large intestine, and the large intestine is going to absorb the H2O. That's the water. Now absorption, taking up the water. So absorption is nothing but when the walls of the intestine are able to pick up the selected nutrients from the food that had been churned originally and being passed on to the organs in the digestive system. So that's to be known as scientifically as absorption. So the water is absorbed in the large intestine where I am rotating my hand over there. Finally, what is left is nothing but the waste. So the waste is discarded from the anus. Now that's your waste that is discarded from the anus. And further, the activities of the digestive system is accomplished, and we here understood about the mechanism of the digestive system. So in this way we've completed actually one system, understanding in detail about the digestive system. That's a very vital part of the body, very vital system, because the body, we need energy, and we need the other sources of energy and nutrition that we get from our food. So that is why the food diet that you have needs to be balanced, needs to be really in proportion, and not much of junk food, because having healthy food is helpful for your health in return. And that's just a tip that is from me, that just an advice to you, just for you to become really good looking and well equipped when you grow up. And that's it. So let's just shift to the other type of the system, that is going to be the respiratory system. I'll just ask you two questions. So the first one is going to be that when the newborn babies are born, so what happens is they are suggested to be fed with more of dal and more of pitch and all these substances, all these food materials. So why is it so? Well, the answer to that is very simple, and the answer is that the newborn babies, they require immediate source of nutrition, and the dal and all these other food materials are going to have high content of proteins and starches in them. That's really important for the body's function, and in this way the child is able to have consume it without having teeth. So the churning and the chewing part is also not that difficult. It is easily chewable and has high content of nutrition, and thus helps in the enhancement of the child's body. So this is the main reason actually why doctors suggest the intake of dal for young kids and also for older people. So let's just shift our attention back to the respiratory system. As I had in the digestive system, the diagram of the digestive system, over here I have the whole diagram of the respiratory system. So we'll again start with the same procedure of just naming and understanding what organs are actually there. So you inhale air continuously and you exhale air continuously outside. This is some kind of function where you don't realize that you're performing it, but you actually are performing it right every minute, every second and every hour to the end of your lifespan, involuntary. And because of this, your main body functions of the blood taking up the nutrition and oxygen is able to be performed completely. So it's really important to understand about the respiratory system. Now in respiratory system, we know that we inhale air through the nose. So the first organ is going to be the nose itself. Nose is the first organ of the respiratory system. Then the air that is taken in from the nose is pushed down to the trachea, and the trachea is the long tubular part that is present over here. So remember, esophagus and trachea are not the same openings. There are two different openings present in your throat, in your neck, and this trachea is connected to the lungs. So I will first write down, after the nose is trachea. The spelling is Trachea, trachea. Then this air that is taken into the trachea is pushed to the lungs, and we have a pair of lungs. That means we have two sets of lungs in our chest. So, lungs. This is the first lung over here, and that's the second lung. Then in lung we can see that the trachea opens to many minute openings, and it divides into smaller branches, many smaller branches. As you can see over here, it's been broken down to smaller branches inside the lung, and this is nothing but the alveoli. This breaking is nothing but the alveoli, and alveoli, to be precise, is the small sacs present on the end of these branches. There are hundreds and hundreds of sacs present on the end of these branches, these small branches, and they, to be precise, are the alveoli. So these minute sacs are responsible for having the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now further we move down, so we would see the other part, that is the diaphragm. Now let me just write that down for you. That's DAIPHRAGM, the diaphragm. Now this is the floor of your bony rib cage. Your whole, all these organs are enclosed in a bony structure. That's the rib cage. Now what you can do is just to feel and understand that how the shape of rib cage is, you can feel your chest region, your sternum region, and in that you can actually sense on sight that there is something really hard and bony, and this hard and bony structure is nothing but the rib cage that protects your lungs, your diaphragm, your heart and all the other organs in it. So this all is enclosed in a rib cage. So rib cage, just imagine that this is the region that I am drawing, and that shaded region is nothing but the rib cage. So we'll again revise it all. What we learnt was that the nose was responsible for taking in of the air, and this process of taking in of the air is known as the inhalation. So we've completed one point over there. So the air that had entered from the nose entered the trachea, and it was pushed down the trachea to the lungs. Now in lungs, this trachea is broken down into much smaller and smaller branches, and these branches are going to have minute sacs in them at the tips of them, and these sacs are going to be nothing but the alveoli or the alveolus. Then we also understood that diaphragm was one structure that was present and was the floor of the bony structure that was the rib cage. So I'll write rib cage down too for you. So this is the whole of the rib cage, and this is the floor. That's the floor. And the shaded region, just assume it to be rib cage. So the points we covered from these are that they were minute sac openings, that were alveoli, and we've understood the process of inhalation. So the process of taking in of air is known as inhalation, and the process of removing the air of your body is exhalation. So we will just understand about the mechanism again, about the respiratory system, just like we did in the digestive system. So we are thorough with what are the parts of the respiratory system. Now let's just understand about the mechanism, about how does it work. So first step is going to be when the air is taken inside from the nose and is pushed through the trachea into the lungs. So the lungs has the trachea in it into smaller branches, as I told you earlier. So these smaller branches are going to have minute sacs, and these minute sacs are nothing but the alveoli or the alveolus. Also, what happens is when oxygen mixes in the blood vessels, so not all the oxygen is actually reached to this alveoli, because in between the oxygen that is there, that is taken up by the blood from the atmospheric air, is in the blood. Most of it is in the blood that is circulating in the blood vessels. Then the CO2, that is the carbon dioxide, enters the alveoli. So also we know that since there is oxygen, there is also carbon dioxide in blood, because we are continuously inhaling and exhaling. So since there is continuous inhalation and exhalation of air in the lungs, so there's going to be obviously carbon dioxide also present along with oxygen in the blood. So the alveoli, that are the minute sacs right over here, are going to be inhaling. I'll just magnify this diagram for you anyway. So that's your trachea. Okay, this goes your trachea. In your lungs, now your trachea is going to have minute openings and minute sacs, hundreds of minutes of sacs that are going to be around on every trachea. And this is going to contain the carbon dioxide in it, and which will further be removed or exhaled out of your lungs. So along with that, not only this but also the diaphragm. The diaphragm plays a very major role actually in supporting the whole of the system of lungs and the rib cage. So since it being the floor of the bony rib cage, right over here that I have mentioned, that's our diaphragm. This. That's the floor. And that supports the bony structure. That is the rib cage. So while we're breathing, we inhale air, don't we? The atmospheric air, we inhale it. So what happens in that is the ribs are lifted. So while you inhale air, just try doing it practically with me. Just inhale air and you will see that your ribs are lifted, and you will sense a feeling where your bony structure is moving towards the out. And followingly, what happens is the diaphragm would sag down. After the ribs are being lifted, the diaphragm will sag down, obviously, because the pressure is reduced in your lungs. Then what happens is, when you would be breathing the following out, your ribs would come back to the normal position and your diaphragm too would reach back to the normal place and be the normal floor, because the pressure is now released. Now the pressure is more inside. The reduced pressure is no longer there when you inhale the air. But now the pressure is more in your lungs. That's why your diaphragm is relaxed back and your ribs are in the normal position. So along with that, the outside air would enter through the nose and ribs would move back to the normal position. So this gives quite a gist about how the functioning of the diaphragm works. So I will repeat it again for you. So that is that the ribs are lifted when you inhale the air and the diaphragm would sag in the downward direction. So because of this, the pressure is reduced. Over here, it would sag in a downward direction due to the pressure being reduced, and it would be vice versa in this situation. When you would be exhaling the air out, and the rib cage is going to come back to the normal position and your diaphragm is going to be relaxed again. It's going to be in the normal place. So the outside air enters through the nose, and after that, what would happen? You want to know what would happen over here. Plus the ribs move to the normal position, to the normal placing. So we understood about the process of respiration in quite a gist. Now I'll tell you about what exactly makes the whole of the respiratory system. Our main concern was to understand about the respiratory system. So the nose, the trachea, the lungs, the alveoli, the diaphragm and the ribcage together make the whole of the respiratory system. And this respiratory system helps in performing the functions of the breathing and also the purification of the exchange of gaseous matter, that is the carbon dioxide, releasing of carbon dioxide in the outer air, and inhalation of the oxygen, and hereby supplying oxygen to every cell of your body to perform functions. So I'll just repeat it once again in a very quick manner for you. So what we started by learning was that nose was responsible for inhaling the air. Now when the air is inhaled, so the air that is taken in is pushed down the trachea, and this trachea is responsible for being broken down into smaller branches, and these smaller branches at the tip are going to have hundreds and hundreds of minute sacs. These minute sacs here are going to be alveoli. Now alveoli are the ones that would be having the carbon dioxide in them. So what happens for the case of oxygen is, since the atmospheric air is taken inside, maximum of the oxygen, most amount of it is actually dissolved in the blood that is flowing in the blood vessels. So along with that, the O2 that is in the blood vessels would be taken up anyway by the lungs and circulated further. So the CO2, that is the carbon dioxide over here, would enter the alveoli and from there would be removed out. Along with that, the process of exhalation is performed simultaneously. So it's a very simultaneous the process is very simultaneous actually. You inhale for once and within fraction of seconds the activity is performed by your respiratory system of exchanging gases, and immediately the carbon dioxide is removed out of your body. So inhalation and exhalation are side by side processes. Along with that, we also learned about the diaphragm. Since we understood about everything, so diaphragm was this structure, the floor of the bony rib cage that held the whole structure together. So in diaphragm we studied about when the air was inhaled inside, the ribs were lifted and diaphragm would sag in the downward direction. Because of this, the pressure is reduced in your lungs, and even it would happen vice versa, because what would happen is your diaphragm would get back to the normal place once your rib cage was back to the normal state. So in this way the pressure would be increased inside your lungs, and the diaphragms would be back to the normal state along with the rib cage, and this would be a rhythmic the process. Because of this diaphragm, the breathing is actually possible. Because of the rhythmic movement of the diaphragm, the breathing process is possible in humans, and therefore we can also understand that the nose, the trachea, the lungs, the alveoli, the diaphragm and the rib cage together form the respiratory system. So as I had told you about the understanding only about the digestive and the respiratory system along with the sensory organs have been covered. So I'll just explain to you about the sensory organs in short. Now sensory organs are the organs that are responsible for you to react to the senses from the external environment, and it is a kind of response to stimuli movement. So the organs that are going to be given in this list are the ears, or the 5 senses that you have, that is taste, smell, touch, feel and sound. So just relate the organs that are going to be there with these two. These 5 senses. So as I told you, taste, the organ is going to be tongue. For touch, the organ is going to be skin. For hearing, the organ is going to be ear. And for the aroma, your organ is going to be nose. And for seeing, for sight, your organ is going to be eyes. So it's just in simple the sensory organs. These all are going to be the sensory organs, but these sensory organs are connected to every other system that is present in the body to perform the functions properly. Now you need to understand actually that the movements and the activities that are performed and the various functions that have been performed in your body are not the simple ones. They are really complex, and they require a huge amount of coordination in every system and every part of your body. So the body is well designed and well planned in the way that it can sustain itself and perform the various functions and be healthy and sustain life. So we are done with the chapter over here. I'll just summarize the whole chapter once to you. We studied about the types of the sensory organs. Along with that, we studied about the organ system. In that we learned that the organ system is nothing but the system where a lot of organs, like not a lot of organs, but obviously a group of organs, they come together to serve a common purpose, to serve a common function, and that would be known as the organ system. Now, we learned that there were various kinds of organ systems because we perform various kinds of functions, and they would be like the respiratory system, the excretory system, digestive system, circulatory system, and the reproductory system. So out of that we learned that the 3 vital systems that were there were the respiratory, the circulatory and the digestive system. So of these systems we understood in depth about the respiratory system and the digestive system, and we understood about the various kind of digestive juices in these digestive system, and we learned about how inhalation and exhalation and movement of diaphragm is able to be performing the functions of breathing.